Welcome, my friends, my family, my fellow gamers. This is your boy Porter Rock 77, your only friend in these YouTube streets, coming back at you with another video. Check out the description box. There you'll see the link to my Twitter. Hit me up with a follow so we could continue the conversation. And if you're new to the channel, welcome. I hope you stuck around by hitting the subscribe button and of course hit that bell for notifications. And everybody who's watching this video, if you enjoy it, please hit the like button and spread it out through your favorite social media platforms. All right, appreciate it. So straight to the punch. Rumor has it, some rumors about the PlayStation 5. Talking about it's $500, Ryzen CPU core. Let me just read pretty much the gist of it, and I want to give you my thoughts and opinions about that. There's some things I like to hear, there's some things I don't like to hear, and I'm going to give you that. This video is not simply just reporting the news because that's boring. But some of you may not have read the articles, some of you may not even know that the rumor is out there, so that's why I want to read it real quick, and then I'm going to give you my thoughts and opinions about it. So here he goes. It's pretty much this. All right. Rumor mill. Does Sony's reason for skipping next year's E3 include the PlayStation 5? That's the rumor put forward by the same Redditor who predicted the company's decision, and they've also revealed some interesting alleged details about the upcoming console. On the same Reddit thread where they said Sony would avoid E3 before any official announcements were made, Rutnik Cookie wrote about the long-rumored PlayStation 5. They claimed it will be announced sometime in the middle of next year, with the full reveal coming at a later PlayStation Experience event. The PlayStation 5 will then launch in either March or November 2020. Rutnik Cookie describes the PS5 as a monster, a 4K 60 frame stable and at the same time kind of monster, adding that it features a Ryzen 8-core CPU, which aligns with previous rumors. Back in April, it was claimed that the console would also use custom GPU based on AMD's upcoming Navi architecture. The Reddit user mentions that most developers already have PlayStation 5 development kits, another rumor we heard earlier this year, and that the game machine will cost $500 at launch. Game-wise, Rutnik Cookie says 3 big upcoming PS4 titles, Death Stranding, The Last of Us Part 2, and Ghost of Tsushima, will all be PlayStation 5 launch games. We still don't know if backwards compatibility will be present, but it seems a safe bet. Additionally, the PSVR is also getting a successor. The current version's breaker box is being moved inside the console, while the PSVR 2 will have a built-in camera. Moreover, new PlayStation Move controllers are in development. Sony is also said to be testing virtual reality gloves. All this is just a rumor, though Rutnik Cookie previous accurate predictions do lend credence to the claims. They also called BioWare's Anthem a mess in its current state and said it will be delayed again in February 2019. All right, so gone, right? But hold on a minute. Something's not right. I think my battery charge is messing up. Hold up. There we go. Battery life. What are we doing here? Excuse me for this, but anyway. So going on with the video. This is not good. Why are you not working? There we go. All right. Sorry about that. Something strange is going on with my computer. But anyway, so we heard the rumors, described the rumors. I'm going to tell you what I feel about it. So let's start with one. Ryzen CPU core, right? I think that's going to be pretty much the CPU for next generation's consoles. I think it's going to be something Microsoft's going to use because there's really no other CPU to use out there unless it's newly developed CPUs. The advantage of using a Ryzen CPU core, CPU processor is the fact that it's already made. It's already being manufactured. So with these consoles, they're not building brand new CPUs, which is increase the cost in development and manufacturing. They're using something that's already off the shelf, right? And all they got to do is just customize it. It's pretty much the philosophy that these gaming companies are going to do. They want to use off-the-shelf parts that's already been manufactured. It's already in the pipeline. It's a lot cheaper. All they got to do is put their little spin to these off-the-shelf components to get the performance they want, to get their console to the level they want. So I think it's a safe bet that PlayStation and Microsoft's platform will be using an 8-core Ryzen CPU. All right? The next thing, $500. I think that's also a safe bet that the consoles will be $500. I don't think with Ryzen and the potential of using Vega and stuff like that, you could get these consoles down to $400. I think right now we have to expect a $500 consoles. I have concerns over that, which my main concerns for $500 consoles is this. Yes, with $500, with that type of budget, you're going to get the console that you want in terms of performance and power. And I know a lot of hardcore gamers want that. They want to be. Some even say, shit, make them $600-$700. I don't care. Give me a powerful platform. But you want a powerful platform to do what? To play games, right? And what type of games you want? I'm pretty sure, everybody will play into the AA, single A, and indies, but we want big blockbuster AAA games, right? Those big blockbuster AAA games are going to come from the first party. It's going to come from third party, right? The problem with a $500 console or higher is it's a slow seller, The key to getting these consoles in volume to sell is reaching the $300 price mark. And the higher you go initially, the harder it is to get to $300, right? So how does that impact? Some people be like, well, that's not my problem. Why am I worried about a company's console sales? True to a certain point. You do want games, right? You do want third parties to develop big blockbuster games, right? You do want third parties to produce new IPs, right? Well, if a console's not selling at a decent expected rate, guess what happens? Third party starts holding back. They start looking like, do we really want to publish big new AAA IPs in an environment where the consoles are not selling at a fast rate? They might pull back and just simply stick with the same tried and true franchises, the Call of Duties, the Maddens, or games as a service type games, Because at the end of the day, these companies, they owe the allegiance to themselves. You know what I'm saying? They're not here pushing charity work, They're going to look at the market. I mean, best example I could give you is the first 3-4 years of PlayStation 3's life console, right? The first 3-4 years, they lost a lot of Japanese support. Why? Because the console wasn't selling, And a lot of Japanese big-time developers, they were nervous with putting support in the PlayStation 3. So what they did was they made all their games multi-plat. So if it's going to come out on PS3, it's going to come out on the Xbox 360, right? Which is fine in a sense for most gamers. But a lot of them said, screw these consoles, because both 360 and PS3 initially, they're not selling that great. We're going to put our games on the platform that is selling blockbusters and bangers in terms of sales, and that's the DS. And that was a handheld. You know what I mean? Companies will protect their own self-interest, So consoles at $500, there is potential for that. Now, I think in this case, third-party developers and publishers will recoup by making the games cross-gen. Don't expect to see a lot of exclusive third-party support on the PlayStation 5 and the next generation Xbox. Probably not going to happen for the first 2-3 years. I would imagine if the PlayStation 5 is $500, I would imagine the next Xbox will be $500 whenever it decides to come out. They're not going to sell as fast as people would think. So you're going to see a lot of cross-gen titles. You're going to see a lot of games made for the PlayStation 4 and the vanilla Xbox One, because that generation of platforms have so many users already in the homes. So prepare to see a lot of third-party games that are cross-gen platform. That's just the reality. Another remark here is developers having PS5 dev kits. I would imagine that. I'm pretty sure they had these dev kits or some form of dev kits that target what the PlayStation 5 would look like for a long while. This is what would help get the games out. Because as you know, there's a lot of games that launch, the first year, or there's games already at launch. The Maddens, especially the Maddens, maybe a Call of Duty and stuff like that. So those games are already there. But in order to be there, developers have to know roundabout what type of hardware Sony's looking at. And then at that point, they start scaling up and down or whatever. So that would make sense regardless. I don't think you need a rumor. Now here it says 3 big upcoming titles, PS4, Death Stranding, Last of Us, and Ghost of Tsushima will all be PS5 launch games. I'm not sure how I feel about that. If the console's supposed to launch in November 2020, then what is PlayStation 4 supposed to have, especially when all of these games were announced for the PlayStation 4, going back to, let's say, for example, The Last of Us was announced at PSX 2016 as a PS4 game. Ghost of Tsushima was announced in 2017, and Death Stranding was announced in 2016. All these games were announced as PlayStation 4 games. I don't see Sony holding on to these games as PlayStation 5 launch games. The main reason is because it's all about the mass amount of money these games will sell on the current fan base that at this point in time is already at 86 million. By the time next year kicks off, the console is going to be over 90 plus million, in sales. And as 2019 goes along, it's going to be 100 million sales. You saw the success of Spider-Man. You saw the success of God of War. Both games was like 3 million sales in 3 days. They're going to want that level of success for the franchise, for the individual game. The PlayStation 5 is going to sell. That's just the reality. It's going to sell. It's already sold itself. In fact, with the new IPs that the PlayStation 4 created, Horizon Zero Dawn, Spider-Man, and if Ghost of Tsushima, Death Stranding, and Days Gone are successful new IPs, these franchises, people are going to be like, oh, I cannot wait to play the sequel to these games. Well, there's only one place you're going to be able to play the sequels to these games. That's on the PlayStation 5. So PlayStation 5 sold itself, I think that these games are going to be trickled across 2019 as the last hurrah, the last bon voyage of PlayStation 4. Now, it's not like PlayStation 4 is going to be canceled or stop manufacturing. I'm just saying these are the last bits of new IPs and new games made by Sony or published by Sony for the PlayStation 4, barring any cross-gen titles they do themselves between the PlayStation 5 and the PlayStation 4. So I'm not sure that rumors be anything. Now, this is the one thing that concerns me in this one, and I'll repeat the paragraph. Additionally, PlayStation VR is also getting a successor. The current version's breaker box is being removed inside the console, while the PSVR 2 will have a built-in camera, all right? So now the breaker box, you saw this big compatible device. It supposedly has technology in there to boost the graphics, to make up for the weak power. I ain't gonna say the weak power, but PlayStation Vanilla and PlayStation Slim ain't power enough to run PSVR on its own. You need this breaker box, right? And it makes sense because the PlayStation 4 is a console that launched in 2013 and it has 2012 hardware. So you're talking 2012 hardware running PSVR games. Think about that, right? What I don't like about that rumor is taking the breaker box and putting it into the console. I could maybe understand like the HDMI ports and stuff like that, but as far as processors or anything weird like that, my concern is that's what's adding the cost to the PlayStation 5, making it $500. In other words, it's a $500 console, right? But $50 to $100 of it is this PSVR breaker box, while the other $400 is PlayStation 4 hardware, For example, if you remove the breaker box and all that stuff, then you could have sold the PlayStation 4 for $400. Kind of like what Microsoft did with, with the Xbox One Vanilla and the Kinect. Because the Kinect was $150, the cost of the Xbox One was $500. But in reality, if you were to take out Kinect, it's only a $350 console. And that's my concern, because if you got a $500 console, right? And then let's say a year later or at the same time, Microsoft releases a $500 console. And the box, the Xbox One, or the Xbox Scarlet, the performance is clearly superior. People are going to wonder, why is the new Xbox so much superior to the PlayStation 5 when they both cost $500? People are going to be confused with the $500 price tag and the clear difference between the two. Well, it's because the PlayStation 5, again, this is all rumors, but the PlayStation 5 is actually a $400 console with a $100 breaker box built in. No, Sony, don't do that. Right? Don't put no breaker box that's going to elevate the cost. If the console's $400, then you just release a $400 console. That's just reality, I understand there are PSVR fans that would welcome this addition just so that way the PlayStation VR 2 doesn't have a breaker box. Well, guess what? The majority of PlayStation 5 fans shouldn't have to pay for your personal preference for the minority. Why pay $500 for something the majority of PlayStation 5 users aren't going to get, have no plans to get, and don't care? Of course, PSVR advocates are going to say, well, it's a great console, you're missing out. Irrelevant. We don't care. I ain't going to say we, because I'm personally interested in PSVR, right? But the majority don't care about your opinion. The majority is spending $500, and there's potential that $100 of it doesn't go towards what they want. That's not fair, and that's not right. If you want PSVR, I want PSVR, then we put our money towards PSVR. People who don't want to put money towards PSVR shouldn't have to. So if the console was built as a console for $400 and then they put in this PSVR stuff and it raised it to $500, that's wrong. That should not happen. That is complete bullshit. All right. People who don't want PSVR shouldn't be putting any money towards it. All right. People are buying the PlayStation 5. The majority are buying the PlayStation 5 because it's a PlayStation 5, not because it's PSVR. Those who want PSVR to in the future, you're just going to have to pay the extra money to get it. You know what I'm saying? It shouldn't be subsidized by the majority just because you want something from the minority. That's not right, okay? If Sony's plans to sell a $500 console, it needs to be built as a $500 console. Plain and simple. Should not be a $400 console with $100 worth of VR components and stuff like that. That is not right. That is completely wrong, and I think it's going to bite them in the ass, you know? So we'll see. Now, in my opinion, I don't see the reason to have some type of accelerated processor or anything like that, because originally, like I said, the original breaker box is designed to make up the difference for the vanilla PS4. Create a PS5, Ryzen, Vega, Navi, whatever, powerful GPU, powerful CPU, that on itself will provide the power you need to power PlayStation 5, because that's what PC uses. You know, PCU doesn't have an accelerated processor for VR games. It just uses the raw power of the CPU and the GPU to run it and the appropriate amount of RAM, you know. But I think that would be a huge mistake. And the final thought is 2020 release. March versus November 2020. I would advocate a March 2020 release. I think that's the best time. Kind of like what the Switch did. And that's how it used to be back in the days. You know, the PS1 generation, PS2 and older, consoles used to launch in March in Japan first and then come out 9 months to a year later in America. What that did was all the initial, you know, manufacturing, stuff like that, and all the initial games, the library will build up over time. By the time the console will launch in America, you already have an established first year library, you could say, that was instantly day one in America. I would recommend the same thing too, except obviously the consoles will launch in all regions at the same time. But March, you're not going to have a lot of games. You're not going to have a lot of games during the launch period. So do it during March, you know. Then as months come by, you're going to have more developers who plan to have their games out within the first 12 months of March, meaning they didn't make the launch date, but their games are going to come out within the next 12 months of release, right? Well, guess what? You launch it out in March, you got April, May, June, July, August, September, October, November. You got 9 months from release. That's more games that's going to release and be available in November 2020. So a March release will make sense, right? And then also the manufacturing. So you're talking about shortages and stuff like that because of the high demand. As the months come by, you recoup, you sell, you trickle, you improve your sales, you build up your stockpile, you build up the manufacturing process, you build up the library. Then the biggest shopping month of the year, which is November for video games, you'll have the console, you'll have a lot more games, you know, and you'll probably be able to meet the demand of a November month as compared to a March month. Does that make sense? So to me, if we were to do it, launch in March of 2019 and then build up for the first holiday season of 2020. I'm sorry, I said 2019. I mean, launch in March of 2020 and build up to the November 2020 Super Bowl, whatever you want to call it, right? But that's how I feel. That's my opinion so far of this rumor. And we'll probably see more rumors drop as it is, okay? But anyway, this is your boy PorterRock77. Don't forget to hit that like button. I would truly appreciate it. And if you're new to the channel, please hit the subscribe button. This will be part of my playlist. Check out all my other videos. I put them in a playlist to make it easier for you to catch up and see everything. And I appreciate for you hanging out and rocking with me. Thank you so much for supporting my channel. All right? Again, your only friend in these YouTube streets. And I'm out. Peace.